You're listening to the Bitcoin Takeover podcast, the Bitcoin podcast for OGs and intermediaries. Make sure you subscribe, leave a comment, and like this episode. Also, read the new BTC KVR magazine. This episode is sponsored by Wasabi Wallet, Crypto Steel, Shop in a Bit, and Satodime. Thank you for listening.
Hello there and welcome to the Bitcoin Takeover podcast. I am Vlad, your Bitcoin influencer's influencer, and I'm here with Ben Arc, who is the creator of LNBits and also one of the co-founders of Nostr. That's the way you pronounce it. And he came up with the name as far as I know, and also he is the CEO.
I am the CEO of Nostr. I mean, I was called myself that on the, because my talk I did here was called the Nostr Commons. So, by calling myself the Nostr CEO, I was able to talk about how commons can get co-opted. So, because I own Nostr.com, I could then sway lots of noobs who come into Nostr and they Google Nostr, and then point them at something else. A bit like Bitcoin.com and Roger Ver.
You channeled your inner Roger Ver.
I channeled my inner Roger Ver, yeah. And more recently as well, I actually put a nip in, just because I felt I ought to, owning Nostr.com, for Nostr Cash. So there is a nip, and it's like the most hated nip.
What's a nip?
A Nostr implementation possibility.
It is not an abbreviation for a nipple.
No. It's an unfortunate abbreviation. But we were just saying, actually, before we got on air, that I think Nostr, part of Nostr's success is it's quite easy to use it as a suffix to make words, like Nostriches, Nostrific, or like Nostr Renaissance, or you can just add it. Nostragram, yeah, exactly. So all these projects can like use it. And it's similar with Cashew as well. Like if you have a name for your protocol or project, which people can make innuendos out of, and then they can do word plays on, I think it makes a lot of fun, like, to develop on, you know? Yeah, actually, something I'm quite interested in and want to work on when I get back is after I registered Nostr.com, the second domain I registered was Nostrify.com. And I think that on Nostr, you could really easily build a Spotify, you know, like a Napster type thing. So I want to explore building that. So I might start working on that when I get back. I think there's a couple of other projects which are looking at delivering music over Nostr. But from what I can tell, they haven't put in a NIP or anything. It's more just client side, which is kind of the wrong way to go. Like you want to have something which the people who are using the protocol can then make use of in their own applications. So like Nostr Market, for example, which is NIP 15, there's a whole bunch of clients which want to implement, like Amethyst. I was talking to Victor about it. He really wants to implement markets in Amethyst. So, which I think makes a lot of sense if you look at like Facebook Marketplace and how popular that is. There's something very powerful about when you marry selling stuff with your social graph. And that is the beauty of Nostr, is that modularity of NIPs, where you think, well, there's a new NIP here and it has this functionality. Cool, I can just pull that into my client. So yeah, it'd be really nice to kind of get some music sharing. I mean, maybe there is already a NIP for it. It's quite hard to keep up, to be honest, with all those PRs. But I'll have to look through and see if there is something. Maybe somebody's already building it, but I think it'd be a cool project.
The last time I interviewed you was 2 years ago when I asked you specifically more details about Wasabi Wallet. And you just casually dropped this idea that you're working on Nostr. And I remember trying it for the first time a few months later. It was a client by Fiatjaf, and it was called Branle.
Yeah. So I made Nostr, I made the first Nostr Twitter client. Because before that, it was back-end developers, protocol developers refusing to have any like nice slick UI. So I just cloned Twitter, like literally cloned it, and then just used Nostr for it. But it was really buggy. It worked, like, because there weren't that many people using Nostr. But then Fiatjaf turned it into a proper project, Branel. But then sadly, like he made a great design choice to have an actual database for local storage stuff called PouchDB, I think. But as it worked out, it's kind of almost unforeseen, like a computer science blunder. Like, it made it really slow, the project really slow. So now when you have a lot of data coming through, Branel doesn't work that well. But I do think that if there's some updates to PouchDB, or if there's another way around it, that Branel could be saved as a project and brought back. And I think it's needed because it is a really nice Twitter clone. And it's completely free and open source. So, yeah, I think it's... and it runs on, you can install it as a progressive web app. So it would be cool to kind of resurrect that project.
And it seems like Twitter clones are super popular these days. Everyone makes them.
Yeah, I mean, so like, obviously we had this attention from Jack Dorsey, and Nostr itself, it advertises itself on this protocol page as something for decentralized social networks, which might work, an approach towards decentralizing social networks. But, well, I mean, like, it was partly based on the idea of Diagon Alley, which was a marketplace, and like it was censorship resistant through resilient infrastructure, which is how Nostr works. So, and we also spoke about Uber and replacing a whole bunch of other platforms and applications back in the day. And I think more and more people are waking up to that now. They're like, okay, cool, we can actually use this for more than just Twitter. I think a lot of projects, they were getting encouraged by Jack Dorsey, and they were getting zapped millions of sats to work on Twitter clients. And clearly we do need decent Twitter clients, and it brings a lot of attention into Nostr. But now I really want to see more and more creativity when it comes to what we can apply a smart client, dumb server framework, what other applications we can apply it to. And one really good one would be LocalBitcoins. I hope that someone makes LocalBitcoins on Nostr. I think it's perfectly possible.
Yeah, so an important takeaway from this is that it's Nostr, not Nostr.
It's Nostr, yeah, Nostr. Because Nostr in Welsh means good night. So yeah, Nostr, that's how it's supposed to be pronounced. Although I didn't come up with the name, Nostr. That was Fiatjaf. Notes and other stuff transmitted by relays. So basically I made Diagon Alley. He worked with me and helped me develop that into a protocol. It was using keys, and it had that idea of client-side stuff, and then having like dumb indexes which could index products, which if they got taken down, like Pirate Bay, it wouldn't be that bad. You could just create a new one. And then it was like a few months later that sort of sat, and I had like my proof of concept extension on LNBits, but nothing really happened with it. It was only Fiatjaf and another friend of mine, Max, who actually saw value in it. And then a few months later, Fiatjaf was like, "Oh, look at this thing which I've worked on and made." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And I looked at it and I was like, "Dude, this is like that." And he was like, "Yeah, that's part of the thing which helped develop the Nostr." So I can't take too much credit. It's Fiatjaf's baby, but I instantly, knowing that I'd had some like role in the development of Nostr, gave me I was instantly attached to the project and to the protocol as well. And I think anyone who actually explores Nostr, like Jack Dorsey, who's looking at all these different social networks to have decentralized, censorship-resistant social networks with better forms of moderation and censorship on. And when he finally stumbled across Nostr, he became super excited about it because, once you read that and you understand how the protocol works, you realize it's very easy to build clients for. And then you have this renaissance of people just building clients. And relays as well, like the relays, because they're so dumb. And you can get the relays to do some really interesting things. Again, that's another very underdeveloped area of Nostr. But as a service, I think the relay industry is huge. Like, there'll be some very successful and profitable companies which come out of the relay space in Nostr. Perhaps I'm offering something like, I want a vanilla Twitter experience. So maybe some sort of paid relay where they actually have time to have a decent moderation policy, or maybe like specific relays for specific groups of people. Data storage is a big thing because like Twitter pretends to be conversational. It's a conversational format, but then it keeps your tweets forever. So knowing that you're quite guarded, then you don't want to publish. You know that it's going to be published forever. So everyone's communicating in this conversational format, but in a quite a guarded way, like they understand that it's going to be published forever. And then you get people who come along, and they just don't care, and they'll speak like they speak down the pub with their mates, and it gives them like huge power because they seem more real. So a Donald Trump who's like, he seems more real, like he talks like people talk in real life, and he says outrageous, crazy things, and then I think that gives them power, like an extra power from tweets not being ephemeral and not just disappearing. So I like that Nostr notes, without being paid to keep the notes, the relays will just delete them over a period of time. And I think some relays, I mean, they will have an advertising model where they advertise things to you, and that's how they pay for data storage, whereas other relays, which I would probably use, I would just pay a few sats per megabyte or whatever to store data.
Wasabi Wallet is unfairly private. It's the most advanced and most used Bitcoin privacy wallet with 500,000 downloads across Windows, Mac OS, and Linux, as well as thousands of fresh new Bitcoins getting mixed every month. Wasabi makes use of the new generation Wabi-Sabi engine to create mega coin joins, thus mixing your Bitcoins with those of hundreds of other users. For amounts lower than 0.01 BTC and remixes, you pay no coordination fee. Even if you don't use coin joins, Wasabi Wallet has a native Tor integration and downloads block filters to help you keep your network level and public key privacy. Download Wasabi Wallet for free today at wasabiwallet.io and experience the future of Bitcoin privacy.
Yeah, it's interesting, and you're thinking so far ahead.
I think it's just because, well, if you look at the original issues where we were talking about different ideas on Nostr, and then look at the people who are putting in PRs for nips and things, I think it's just fun to kind of let your imagination wander, and think of what you can replace with Nostr and what the ecosystem will look like as time rolls on. But I think as Bitcoiners, like, we're in the future, aren't we? Our minds are usually 5-10 years in the future when we imagine people will be using the things we're building. Mm-hmm. So I think that, again, that's partly the success of Nostr is that Bitcoin developers are very used to thinking about a new fringe protocol in a way where it's being widely used, and these are the things which people will probably want to build for it, you know? So I think they're like almost a very unique, and also they have, like, obviously Bitcoin developers as well, they have a real deep understanding of just public key crypto, which is a hugely powerful tool. And that means that we just have these extra powers which other development communities don't have. So we can develop something like Nostr and then think of all these things we're going to build on top of it.
So you're telling me that Nostr came from Diagonally, which was an extension for LNBits.
Yeah, partly, yeah. So it was the Diagonally was the marketplace. It was a proof of concept I had for a marketplace. So I'm not that like a dark market guy or anything, but I do like the idea of producers having more, I obviously lean a little bit lefty, and I do like the ideas of producers having more of the value which they sell rather than it going to centralized, to Jeff Bezos. And I think that Jeff Bezos is like a bug in the system, which we can get rid of by having more peer-to-peer commerce. And I also just like the classic prisoner dilemma, with the the one where you've stolen a diamond and then we arrange to buy the diamond and then you have to trust the other person. Do you trust the other person? So having like trustless commerce is just a very interesting computer science problem to try and solve. And it's not, I don't think it's possible, but you can get on that spectrum. You can get quite far towards trustlessness. And so I think that's probably why I was interested in. I remember specifically thinking about that game theoretical issue when I was kind of imagining Diagonally. And it was a cool concept. And now what's great about it is now we have Nostr, we made NIP 15, and it works. I demoed Vlad, one of the developers who works on LNBits, who's pretty much built out the marketplace extension. He's got a new update for the market. So basically we have the marketplace, Nostr Market is just a couple of clients So you have the merchant back-end client, basically, where they manage all their products and stuff. And then they sign all the products, send it off up to the relays. And then if someone's subscribed to that public key, or they get a list of public keys for different types of products or whatever, there's another client, which is the marketplace. And by client, I mean this is software which just runs either locally in your browser after you download it from, when you go to the website, or you run it literally locally, like you just, as a whatever, like a HTML file, whatever. So the marketplace client, you give it the public keys, it pulls all the products in, and then it orders them and makes it look like, like an Amazon or an eBay or something. But again, what's cool about it, because you got the permissionless development, we had our original marketplace design, which I quite liked, but when we were watching people using it, they weren't sure where to put the keys to get the merchant data and blah, blah, blah. So Vlad has made a really nice update where...
And by Vlad, you mean Vlad Stan, who's the other Romanian
the
Vlad.
other Vlad. It's very confusing. There's all these Vlads from Romania.
There are lots of Bens, so...
Yeah, that's true. You should have a Vlad group. Have you got a Vlad group?
There are only two of us, as far as I know.
There's probably loads out there. You should make a Vlad union, Vlad Bitcoiners. Yeah, he's great, man. Like, big shout out to the amount of the work he puts into LNBits is incredible. And he's very excited about the Nostr market stuff. So anyway, he's made a new marketplace client, which is a little bit more like Etsy. And then that's cool because it's like permissionless development. So you could have, dozens of different marketplace clients. They're basically doing the same thing. They're just pulling in products, and you can buy a product on that from a merchant. But how you want to see that, how you want that user experience is kind of up to you or different groups of consumers. Which is, again, why it'd be cool if it was put into something like Amethyst, or I think Snort.social as well. We're talking about it, adding marketplaces. So, yeah, it's exciting. And I've had some real crypto anarchisty cypherpunk types who are like, man, Nostr market, and they're really psyched about the concept of it as well. So that's kind of fun too.
Yeah, there's so much cool stuff that you're doing. I attended one of your workshops yesterday, and you showed us how to, basically, we had options, either a Lightning ATM on these LilyGo devices.
Little POS thingy, yeah.
Or a hardware wallet.
Yeah, DIY hardware wallet, $10 DIY hardware wallet. Yeah.
With PSBT, it works basically just like Cold Card. Yeah. For $10, which is incredible.
It can work like Cold Card, where you have an SD card and you air gap. Or you can plug it in and send it over the wire, like the PSBT, more like a Trezor type thing. Actually, the on-chain wallet extension, because Stick from Trezor, that dude's so productive. He's grinding on Trezor, and then he's committing to all these free and open source projects. But one of the projects which has recently piqued his interest has been LNBits, and he's putting some amazing commits to LNBits. So kind of as a thank you, we implemented the Trezor support also for the on-chain wallet extension. And we're you've got a DIY hardware wallet, which is cool. But of course, if you're going to use it for a big stash of Bitcoin, we advise that you use a Trezor, because Trezor's great, So it's nice that people have those options there. But what was I saying? All right, so we have the DIY hardware wallet, $10 DIY hardware wallet. And then what else was there?
The ATM, the POS. And there's also that lightning bolt.
Yeah. That's just the bare bones, not bare bones, but it's a very cheap development ESP32 board with loads of GPIOs, and then a relay. And the ESP32 connects to the Wi-Fi, connects to a WebSocket on your LNBits and an extension in LNBits. When a payment hits, the extension is just looking at a wallet. When the payment hits the wallet, no, sorry, that's a lie. The extension makes an LNURL pay, and then when the payment goes through, and it has that particular ID for that particular switch, it then triggers the WebSocket. So it sends the WebSocket, which is the ESP32, which is connected over the WebSocket to the server. It then just sends. It's just two integers. It's 15 and then 10,000, and then the ESP32. It will know that means turn GPIO 15 on so set it to high for 10 seconds. It's 10,000 milliseconds. And then that turns the thing on for 10 seconds. And then you can go in and you can change the amount of time. So if you're attaching it to an arcade machine to trigger a coin drop, you would have it as 300 milliseconds, like a coin going through. to trigger the coin thing. Whereas if it was like a vending machine, it might be for 10 seconds. Or if it was with the lights we were doing yesterday, maybe you want to turn it on for like a minute, you know. But we were like, I made it as an example of the Switch project, because once you've made it, you can just take that little module and put it in, you know, a coffee machine, a beer tap, a vending machine, whatever. But there was someone there who does YouTube streaming, and they were going to put the QR code in the stream and then just have the bot behind them. So the users, when they tip them, they just get like a little bit of, like a little, I don't know, reward.
CryptoSteel is the original Bitcoin cold storage backup, and it's been innovating self-custody since 2013. Designed and manufactured in Europe from the finest and most resistant stainless steel, the CryptoSteel cassette and the CryptoSteel capsule are industry standards. These cold storage devices are made to resist house fires, extreme floods, and physical shocks. You can also use CryptoSteel to store your important passwords, BIP39 passphrase, or Nostr private key. Buy your CryptoSteel today from cryptosteel.com and use promo code BTCTKVR to get a 10% discount. CryptoSteel. Secure your Bitcoin like an OG.
Yeah, it's like those recent TikTok videos. Have you seen them?
No.
Where they react to emojis and they get paid in TikTok tokens to do that.
Oh, they ripped us off, man. We did that with Streamer Copilot on LNBits.
You did. And there was even when you were on the Bitcoin group on the show.
The slapping machine.
Yeah, you had the slapping machine, you had dispensers for stuff.
Smoke machines,
lots of creative ways to incentivize people to donate so that something from real life interacts with yourself.
It's huge. I think it's huge. I actually think, there's entire industries where that kind of technology would be very useful. I think the sex industry, it could be a very useful application. And this is why I'm interested in people building camming solutions for the sex industry. It's a huge industry of people who are often unbanked, often want to use Bitcoin, often like the value proposition of Bitcoin, but we kind of don't reach out to that industry enough and ask them to use our things. So it's always kind of like the conversation when you talk about the Switch and then talk about having it in a video stream and then it activating a physical device. They're like, oh, sex industry could do that. And you're like, yeah, of course they could. So as far as I know, that's not yet happened. But when it does happen, I'll be really excited. I'll be like, yeah, nice.
Yeah, you should speak with John Carvalho. He used to run Exotica.
Yeah. Actually, Exotica, for me, I thought was really interesting because lots of people were using Exotica. So for those who don't know, Exotica was a cam website, but it was using Bitcoin. But this was on-chain Bitcoin. It wasn't Lightning. And what was interesting about Exotica was there were people using it outside of the sex industry, just as a generalized video platform, a cam platform. I don't know what you call it. So I've always been interested in someone developing that.
So it was like Twitch before Twitch blew up.
Yeah, I think I made something called Satsi a while back, and that was using Jitsi. So you could have a video stream on a Jitsi feed, and then people could comment and stuff, and then they could pay. And I think I probably turned that into Streamer Copilot. The audience, they want to give value back, that value for value idea. They want to give value to the thing they're consuming, but then giving them a reward is just kind of good game reward mechanics, So it'd be cool to see more of that stuff being developed. All of our extensions on LNBits, they're great, but they all have huge potential to grow more, Like the Streamer Copilot extension. There's so many things you could do with that thing. So anyone out there who's a developer and they want to, tweak around with some of our extensions and add some extra functionality, then we have thousands of users who would be very grateful.
I do recall the first time when I tried LNBits, it had a handful of extensions.
Yeah.
But they're all useful, like LN URL, the one that lets you create faucets and stuff like that. Withdraw, yeah. But right now, if you look at it, it has more than 100, I think.
No, we're less than that. We're 30 odd, I think. 30 odd.
Really?
Yeah. Well, there's a bunch in the community which we need to. They're not. So basically, we did a lot of work because when you probably first looked at LNBits, we were packaging in the extensions, But we really wanted that WordPress experience where you start off with something very simple, then you install the extensions. So Vlad actually built the system so we can you can have a repo for your extension, you create a release, and then there's like a manifest file. And as long as your LNBits install has that, it will say, oh, there's a new update for this. You can go and you install the extension, it will go get the release, unzip it, build the database, do everything. It's so fast as well. And then it will also ping you on the extension site page if there's like a new update to the extension as well. So it's a very powerful system that's been built, and it's great. But so we have a list of, a bit like WordPress, of vetted extensions, where we go in, someone PRs it's like a JSON config. They PR it with their extension. Then we go and look at the extension because it's got a hash. We can verify this is the release which will be pulled. And then we can check to make sure it's not doing anything fishy and there's no bugs in it. And then once we've done that process, so when you install LNBits, it comes packaged with the vetted extension manifest file, file, which means that you can access those 30 extensions. So if someone wants to make their extension available to an LNBits user from the moment they install their LNBits, then they would need to submit it to the vetted extensions. It's just like WordPress, like when you submit a plugin to WordPress.
Yeah.
It's but you can also, just like WordPress, you can go and install dodgy extensions if you want, but just for security reasons, we have like a list with extensions we know we've looked at, which I think there's loads of opportunities in just having that. And but it does mean that there's maybe, I don't know, like couple of dozen extensions out there in the wild. People are using custom extensions. There's a few which people have PR'd to the vetted extension list, and we actually need to go through and check them. That kind of involves a little bit of work, so we wanted to build in some permission systems. So there's only so much damage an extension could ever do. And then also we will need to restrict like certain parts of core it can have access to. But once we do that, it'll make it that little bit easier just to vet those extensions. So yeah, there's still loads of room for it to grow. But we're getting our beta, I think, maybe a couple of months, 2-3 months. We're gonna, for what it's worth, we're gonna get an audit done. I think audits are probably a bit of a waste of time, but just for our own peace of mind, we're gonna have someone audit core. In fact, Stick's gonna help us with that because there's some legit, hackers in Prague who can help us with that stuff. But apart from that, it's been hardened in the wild. We've had our demo server, LNBits demo server, running for 3 years now. At certain points we had little bugs and lost a little bit of money, but most of the money's still on there. And it means that having it hardened in the wild, that if you incorporate into your stack, that this thing's been attacked. Because if anyone who builds like just a Lightning solution on top of a node, they're going to have probably like a dozen vulnerabilities. Just everyone has them as soon as you build a project, Whereas if they're using like LNBits, they know those vulnerabilities have been addressed. Maybe there's some more we don't know about, but this is why hopefully that will get flagged up in the audit.
Remember the paper wallet? Ah, yes, the good old days when you printed your Bitcoin private key on an offline computer? It was so fun, but not really easy and totally not secure. Today, we have SatoDime, a chip card that acts just like your good old paper wallet, but with all the modern security features and top-notch functionality. It turns your Bitcoin into a bearer asset, which you can easily trade in person. Thanks to NFC, you can use the SatoDime card with your smartphone. Creating a new pair of Bitcoin keys takes just 2 swipes. Check your balance in real time, create multiple key pairs. Whenever you want, you can reveal your Bitcoin wallet's private key with just a single click. The simple, uncluttered interface lets you quickly see if a key pair has been unsealed. Finally, the cold storage you've been looking for. Available now on SatoDime.io.
It's interesting about LNBits that it started as this basic Lightning Wallet project, and now it's an ecosystem for lots of applications.
We always wanted extensions on there. It really was like WordPress. People give WordPress a lot of stick because it's, written in PHP or whatever. But it's successful because you start off with something simple, so your attack vector's small, and then you install the plugins which you want to use. You add that extra functionality, and it's just a few clicks. And with LNBits, it was like we wanted a wallet account system where each wallet has its own API keys. But then we always wanted that because we were like, we're the builders, it kind of came out of those Telegram groups like LNURL and the LNC Spot group and so those Lightning Telegram groups where like we're building stuff, we're building like faucets, we're building points of sale, we're building, and it just sort of made sense to just have it in one place, and you could just develop an extension, pull it in, and then install it. But yeah, no, it's nice. It's nice to kind of come from that very practical, want to get their hands dirty, want to start building stuff. And I think that's actually the best way to come up with ideas. Is you start trying to build anything. Like you have a new set of tools. I don't know, maybe you're building like an AI thing without interacting in Lightning. I need to do this because I keep kind of rejecting the AI stuff and how important it will be with Bitcoin instinctively. But I actually just need to install my own LNM, and I need to somehow connect it with LNBits, and then I need to sort of play around with it. And just that process, I'll be like, oh shit, I could do this with it. And then I'm like, oh no, I can't because there's something stopping me from doing that. Well, I'll build the thing which is stopping me from doing that. And then lo and behold, there's like, 100,000 other people who are like, oh, there's a thing which fixes that thing which I needed to do to build the thing I want to build. So like, you gotta, in order to get that ball, in order to get momentum, you've just got to get that ball rolling, give it a little push and then see where you end up.
What I like the most about your seminars and presentations is that you come up with new ideas as you're thinking about something that you have done maybe 100 times or more.
What do you mean? Oh, right, yeah, maybe.
It's a live brainstorming session where you realize, you discover something new and you're like, oh, this doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? And then you backtrack and fix it live, and it's pretty impressive how fast you do it.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I'm curious nowadays, what keeps you busy? What keeps your mind occupied, and what do you want to do next?
Well, we've because we have the LNBits Inc., where like WordPress.com, there's legitimate services we can offer the free and open source software, free and open source community, which don't compromise the free and open source project, because that's a real issue. Like a great free and open, there's been plenty of them. A great free and open source project, they get some funding to make a for-profit arm, and then they have like a enterprise version of the free and open source project, which all the development goes to, and then they have the community version, and that turns to a piece of shit. So that you have to be careful when you're creating a for-profit enterprise, which is going to help pay for some of the work you need to get done on the free and open source project. And again, I think WordPress they've approached this really nicely. This is like little, tweaks. Like you have, like with us, we've got our shop, we have our software as a service, so people can you can go to LNBits.com, and if you can't be bothered going and getting a VPS, you can spin up an LNBits for let's say 21 sats an hour. And actually, that's kind of interesting because we could literally spin up an LNBits for a meetup, and then use it for the meetup, and then just shut it down. Just have it run for like 4 hours. Connect it to your custodial wallet or your node or whatever, your LND over Tor. Use it for a few hours, then just shut it down. So we have that as a service which we're offering as well. And then I think WordPress as well. I think they make some money because their plugin system. If you're just making a free plugin for people to use, they just submit it and wait for them to look at it. But if you're creating a premium plugin where there's extra functionality you have to pay for, then I think WordPress.com take a small, like a percentage, like 3% or something on payments. What that means though is they can amass quite a lot of capital to then help feedback and help build the WordPress free and open source software just by taking that little cut. So we will probably do the same with vetted extensions. If someone makes like a premium extension and they're charging for those extra features, we charge a few % for that, and then use that then to go back into the development of LNBits. But yeah, so that's a nice way we could monetize, and it doesn't impact or compromise the free and opens, because ultimately you could just make a different manifest file and let people put their premium extensions on there and not charge anything for that service. So it doesn't compromise the integrity of the free and open source software. It just makes it stronger, makes it better, and more secure as well. But off the back of that, I mean, like WordPress.com, it's a $6.5 billion company, and there's a $600 billion industry plugins. And I think that LNBits, I mean, it's useful. Like, people like it, they use it. So as long as we go on the same trajectory we were going on, I think it's going to be like a really nice relationship between this company and then the free and open source project. So far, it's been great. But what was your question? That question was, what have you been working on? So the only issue is that obviously takes time. So, working on the LNBits Inc. has taken time, and it means that I do a little bit less development time, and that I find that quite hard. So I don't think I can announce it yet, but we have a CBO who's going to be helping with LNBits, and it's the most perfect person you could imagine. But what that means is, while they're exploring those products, I can get back to just like grinding and building stuff, which I'm really quite looking forward to.
I believe you.
Yeah.
You're a builder.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So is there anything that you would want to build right now if you had the time?
I think Nostr.Fi and the Uber thing too. I'm going to give someone a bounty for the Uber thing, the Nostr Uber. And there was a bunch of stuff. I forget. I have these ideas. I have ideas, and I forget them quite quickly. So I need to write them down. But yeah, there's some other things I want to build too. But I think with LNBits, because I don't really care about the AI stuff. I think it using Bitcoin is dependent upon it developing in a certain direction, like having lots of little domain-specific AIs and LMs and things which are sending value to each other. And I think we're currently all just using ChatGPT 4. So I kind of feel that's where the direction in which it will continue to go. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, but I am really excited about Nostr and Nostr's relationship to Bitcoin. I want more ways of people to be able to send value through Nostr, because Nostr isn't Bitcoin, even though they go very well together. But I'm very excited about Nostr and Bitcoin, and I think we can, in LNBits, we can build out a lot more extensions and functionality which will help people develop Nostr applications which are using Bitcoin and Lightning. So for me, because I think the momentum on the Nostr industry and ecosystem and free and open source projects is just absolutely huge. So for me, that's really where my interest lies, is Nostr, and pulling it more into doing more stuff with LNBits and Nostr. Yeah.
Shop&Bit is the online store where you can buy anything with your Bitcoin. Choose between more than 800,000 products, book flights and hotels, and order everything else through the concierge service. With Shop&Bit, you can buy your weekly groceries, get the latest iPhone, upgrade your computer, buy something sexy for your new girlfriend, book a trip to El Salvador through the travel hacking service, and also grab a copy of the latest Bitcoin Takeover magazine to read in the airplane. Everything is integrated with a familiar shopping experience that doesn't track you and deletes your data after the order gets completed. You also get a 3% discount if you pay in Bitcoin. Try Shop&Bit today and use promo code BTCTKVR for a €5 discount on your first order.
So much cool stuff.
So much cool stuff, man. And you yourself as well. These magazines are just...
Yeah.
I'm always in awe how...
As far as I know, they're going to be sold on the LNBits webshop.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to that. Yeah.
And there's going to be a special purple cover for it. So
Yay.
If you're a collector of magazines, you should check that out.
Oh, that's cool. We could sign it and stuff, couldn't we? Like signed editions. Can I buy all the Bitcoin takeovers in a box? No. Or can I buy... I suppose you're always bringing out new ones anyway, aren't you?
I mean, there is the open source edition for everything, but it has a specific cover, and it's not signed by me. So those are two signs that they're made by someone else. I have a specific quality standard for paper. I sign them, and I also make sure that when I get them to events like this one, Mallorca Blockchain Days, I gotta thank Chris and everyone for inviting me. But when I get them to events, I make sure that I change the cover. So that it feels special for that occasion.
It really does. Yeah. And people can, it's free and open source, so people can go and print them and distribute them for free. but the model is that you should be sent back like commission, or not commission, what would you call it? Like a percentage of sales.
That's not mandatory. I mean,
is it not? That's what we're doing with LNBits, isn't it? I hope
that you can give me a percentage, which I appreciate, but you don't have to.
No, let's do that now.
My model is that I take sponsorship, and I put full page ads in the magazine.
Yeah.
When you print your own copy, you can remove them.
Okay, yeah.
If you want.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a possibility. Most people don't, and I'm grateful that they don't, because they offered me the opportunity to tell the sponsors that I was able to deliver more. And yeah, that
maybe it'd be cool to like do a, because I mean I like subscription services.
Mm-hmm.
I like randomly forgetting I'm on a I mean, obviously you forget about the subscription service, but I like randomly forgetting that I'm on a subscription service, and every however many months, 6 months, 4 months, 3 months, you just get this new thing in the post. So if there was like a subscription service for Bitcoin Takeover,
I mean, that would be super cool.
I would like totally sign up for it. Maybe we should do it on LNBits, where people can like enter the subscription service, and then we'll just send them the newest copy of Bitcoin Takeover.
Based on my experience, unfortunately, people prefer Patreon because they pay with fiat.
Yeah.
And they have this mindset that if they're going to spend their Bitcoin, they're going to have their pizza event.
Yeah.
Like Laszlo.
Yeah.
And we're at a point, it's been 14 and a half years since Bitcoin launched. It's not as new.
No.
Almost everyone around the world knows about it. Maybe that I'm not bullish enough, but I don't think we're going to do another 10x from here.
Really?
Maybe
no, I
in
do.
20 years or something. But
we're really, I mean, we're just sort of crawling out of some bear market, but I just feel like there's this bedrock of incredibly accomplished, bright, enthusiastic Bitcoiners who have got diamond hands, and they will just hold forever. And then that little thin slither of trading liquidity is every time we have like bear cycle, you get that bedrock increases, and then that stuff on top decreases, which means that to me it's not this. Bitcoin is like quadrupled in value in short periods of time many times before, and I feel it could do that now. Like we could be at 100K in like a month, or 2 months. Like I feel like with some of the news cycles and with some of the connections, maybe with the Nostr stuff as well, the amount of attention which Bitcoin is getting, I feel super duper crazy bullish. Like the price is gonna go crackers, and then we'll have to put up with all the noobs coming in and fucking pissing us off and ruining our conferences. But oh well.
I actually had this pitch during my presentation today.
Yeah.
Basically, if everyone gets a Breaking FUD magazine and we onboard, let's say, 1 million skeptics, and each one of them buys Bitcoin worth of, let's say, $100.
Yeah.
That's $100 million of Bitcoin that's being bought. But if 1 billion people buy them, that's $100 billion. And that's going to move the market. And we're going to pump the price, just grassroots. And then the institutions will FOMO. And then we'll dump on the institutions. We're going to buy Lambos.
Yeah.
Not Lambos, Toyota Supras, because that's the plebs Lambo.
Yeah.
And then we get girlfriends, and then the institutions have weak hands. They're going to sell too. They're going to crash the price.
Buy that cheap Bitcoin.
And we buy the dip.
And then it happens again.
And we screw the institutions.
Yeah.
And
then walk off into the sunset.
Exactly.
Leaving a better world behind us. Yeah, the Trojan's definitely behind enemy lines now. There's no stopping it, which is always the fear originally. But yeah, I used to, years ago, like standing in my little village and just think, I'm the only person who knows about Bitcoin here and has, this tinsy-wincy little amount of Bitcoin. All there needs to be is a few more of me in my village, and then that times the world. And then that was, with fairly modest values of Bitcoin. And then Bitcoin will be obviously worth a lot more. So to do that math is really exciting. Like you say, if you just onboard X amount of people, they bring X amount of value on average. That creates, I mean, we don't like to, obviously we're too mature and cultural to do price speculation, but it is a really fun activity to do every now and then.
It's fun. And it's fun to think about grassroots adoption as opposed to begging institutions to buy some. Because why have we not learned this lesson? The institutions don't really care about the fundamental values. They just want to be exposed to the volatility when the price is low and there's upside.
Yeah.
And they're going to sell the top. Tesla dumped on us. There was also what was the other one that sold?
Well, this is why, when we get the new billionaire who's been in Bitcoin for a couple of years and they say all the fancy things, they say all the nice things on Twitter and all the big statements, Bitcoin is space-time, Bitcoin is blah, and then everyone likes, oh, wow, these people are so amazing. And then the billionaire, like, a year later is like, oh, I actually don't like Bitcoin. And they just dump on the market. And then we're like, oh, man, I didn't like that guy. So, yeah, I always kind of get a bit twitchy when we have one of those turn up. I won't name names, but, with our ecosystem, periodically we've had them turn up, and usually it ends in them, screwing us over at some point.
I mean, there are lots of people you don't like, and I'm surprised sometimes, but you also
really?
have some unpopular opinions about Bitcoin. Like, you're not against the idea of adding inflation if it's necessary.
No, I mean, I'm neither side on the debate on that, really. I just think it's possible. When you look at whoever's using Bitcoin in the future, their interests will be different to what our interests are right now. So I think that the thing I hate most about, but I think it's kind of necessary. So you have rhetoric, and then you have dialectic, where you can have change and development through exchange of ideas,
yes,
and then synthesis. And then you have rhetoric, which is,
tweets.
What we do a lot in Bitcoin, we're like, this is perfect, this thing's perfect. But then there's an inherent risk in that it's not perfect, and there are improvements we could make if we were a little bit more subjective. But actually, that rhetoric does make people feel more secure in the system, because they're like, there will only ever be 21 million. It will always have these specific properties. Whereas if it was a little bit more flaky, and it's like, well, maybe in the future it'll be like this, and maybe in the future it'll be like that. I think you put it really nicely once, actually. You said that it's two different approaches. Like, there's an approach from maybe sometimes in the technical community where they're looking at it as just like technical issues, and how the technology will evolve over time. And then there's people maybe in the sort of thought leader community where I can't remember you put it really nicely. I was arguing with someone on Twitter, and you de-escalated the argument, just saying it's two different approaches.
I said that there's the cypherpunk approach, which wants, for mostly ideological reasons, Bitcoin to work.
Yeah.
And there's the Austrian economic, I guess, but not necessarily. It's more, it evolved into something else, because Austrian economics talks about competition of currencies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think it acquired a taste of its own with Bitcoin. There's the Bitcoin maximalist, but I don't agree that it's a maximalist when you say that Bitcoin is perfect, it should ossify, and nothing else should ever exist. I think it's just conservative.
Yeah.
Maximalism means that you want to maximize, and in my opinion, maximalism is Lightning Network. Yeah. Maximalism is building stuff like RGB on top of Lightning. Yeah. It's side chains, it's whatever wants to extend the functionality of what Bitcoin is to give it more use cases.
Maximalism is maximize. I like that a lot. That's nice. Good. Yeah, good. Yeah. It's a good way of putting it.
I mean, the term comes from Vitalik, right? He's the one who created this.
Yeah. And then it was co-opted and used as kind of a meme, like a rhetoric meme thing. But so anyway, I think it's important to be contrarian. So like yesterday, for example, we had a whole bunch of talks telling us that CBDCs were the end of the world, evil. Everything's they're gonna use it to just control people. And there's, of course, a huge amount of truth in those statements. But there will be countries which make CBDCs based on show me cash. And then people have access to a digital currency which is blinded. So yeah, they're going to be using a central bank's currency, but they're using that anyway. And currently they're using Visa network, and all that information is tracked. Those countries, their currencies will be used more by the general markets. So I think there is like a competitive, and there's something interesting about all these countries developing their own CBDCs. They want you to use their currency. And the Gresham's law thing, I feel like the technology will meet, and the technology being available. I think I can imagine like a country building their currency, their digital currency, on something like Cashew. Maybe a smaller country, which hasn't got central banking infrastructure, and they can use the free and open source stack, because that's generally what people do when they haven't got access to resources and building their own stuff. So anyway, that's an interesting field of investigation and to think about as well. when you just say it's going to be pure evil and, blah, 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 like, you're closing yourself off to those, I don't know. So I think it's good to kind of keep your mind open and even have contrarian opinions with yourself and argue with yourself and have that dialectic. And I find it more stimulating rather than just being like pig-headed, narrow-minded, ideological. But I do see definitely value in ideology and Bitcoin's ideology as well, because it does attract people.
Yeah, but
it does put people off too.
You've just presented the perfect example of a cypherpunk who likes privacy features in CBDCs, but doesn't think much in terms of supply and demand, because I suppose economists are concerned with the fact that the central bank can issue all of the currency, as opposed to what's happening. No, today...
with banks.
Private banks that print basically money. They expand the monetary supply when they give you a loan and stuff like that. So it's more about...
No,
they care about the control of the currency, and they care about the privacy of the currency.
The control is still in with the hands of the central finance minister, because they can change inflation rates, which then make banks loan or loan less.
Yeah.
So the levers of control are less with the private bank's not going to be like, I'm just going to loan out loads of money now. Mm-hmm. It will only do that if the interest rates suit them, and then the interest rates are set centrally. So sovereign currency producing countries, they're going to produce their own currency, And this is what, again, like the modern monetary theorists hate what they say, like ideologically, but investigate it. There's some interesting stuff there. Warren Mosley, who's the guy who came up with modern monetary theory, he made huge fat stacks and gains off betting against the Widowmaker Japanese. People were betting against the Japanese economy failing, and he was on the other side of that bet, and he made huge amount of money because it didn't fail, because they could just print more money. So the modern monetary theorists, they're like, you can't apply hard currency economics to soft currencies because the rules don't apply. And you can't apply household economics to a sovereign currency producer, because me as a household, I can go bankrupt, but I can't print my own money. A country can print its own money. So if there's a country which has relatively strong infrastructure and it's productive and it has good aggregate, growth or whatever, like, they can produce more currency. They have a tool which I don't have access to. So I shouldn't apply my idea of household economics, which often happens, to sovereign currency producers. So anyway, when I looked at that stuff, because I was very dismissive of soft currency, I was like, well, soft currency is just a technology, and to say it's evil is easy, cognitively, to just categorize that type of money as evil. But actually, it's a technology, and most technology has some redeemable features which are interesting. So yeah, it's just good to be open-minded, I think. But I am going to have to shoot because I've got to fly home.
Yeah.
There goes my plane, back to Wales.
Yeah, it's probably back there. You said 20 minutes and we ended up talking for 48. Ben,
and I could talk for another 3 hours. Vlad, it's always a pleasure.
You can be followed on Twitter at ArcBTC. You're also on Nostr. On GitHub, I think you are Ben Arc.
Yeah. I think so, yeah. Or ArcBTC, I think it might be ARCBTC.
Pay attention to what Ben is doing, because basically some of the stuff that he said today is going to turn into a real project in a couple of years.
Yeah.
And you're going to be like, where does this come from? Well, you heard it here first.
Brazil will have cashew as their national currency. And we'll be like, heard it here first on the Bitcoin Takeover podcast.
Thank you, Ben.
Right, cheers. Thank you. Cheers, Vlad.
Make sure you subscribe, leave a comment, and like this episode. Thank you for listening.